Hey, what's up there, social media world? It's me, Chris, your favorite coach, as if you haven't been seeing enough of me. I love getting back to these conversations with Chris. That's me. And where I talk to people that I think are interesting about what they've got going on and see what kind of value they can add to you out there in the world. So today we have who is a long-standing guest with me, Local Unlocked, on Conversations with Chris, as well as some other things we got going on. We got the real sauce coming out soon.
The real sauce.
Brett Boettge, realtor extraordinaire out of Jupiter, Florida, works 9 months a year. And we have this series coming up called The New Stuff, too. So we got a lot of stuff going on. So welcome, Brett. Yay, Brett.
Woo! So great to be here. I hope that we can talk about the models that we use. They only work 9 months a year. That's a distinction we have to do. They don't work 12 months. They only work 9 months a year.
I love that, actually, because I mean, look, if you can do everything you could do in less time, why not do it? That's what I say. That's what I'm all about.
You build your business around your life. Try to live within the means of your business.
Yeah, that makes more sense. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why we should listen to you. I mean, I said you're a real estate professional down here in Florida, relocated from Wisconsin. You work 9 months a year. Take it away.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not much more to tell. I think I've been in real estate since, I don't know, we're coming up on 17, 18 years now. So almost half my life. I've been in the leadership role for half that time, and then on the front lines of sales the other half. And I'd say right now I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my entire career because I feel totally authentic in, the things that we share, the things that we deliver, the messages we get out there. Because I've always had those little frustrations with the trainings that Chris and I have been to, thousands of these trainings. And I always on some of them, you question the authenticity. It's like, did all your business really come from that? Can you draw the line from that specifically to a transaction? So I feel like what we do now and what we're delivering, it's like, hey, front line, this is what happened right here. This is a case study, and this is how we got there. So I'm loving it. I'm loving life. We're having a blast. I got a beautiful wife who's my partner in crime, Jody, and two wonderful children. And I've got a terrific business. We just have a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like you're checking all the boxes, right? Good life, good kids. A good spouse, good business.
Happiness is the only measure that I have for success.
Yeah. So, when you're talking about really being authentic and being able to step into the promises you give, because I mean, it's always theory at first, right? And especially particularly a lot of new agents, we're just focusing on getting business. And where I like to talk to you about is like, what do you do once you get the business? And I got this concept of real estate after 40, which is, by the way, Brett's Facebook group, Real Estate After 40. I could post a link for you in the comments. It's all around the concept that all you need is 40 past clients that you create raving fans of, and you'll never have to cold prospect again. So now you're kind of just stepping into that and being able to deliver it. But was it a theory first? Was it just, hey, I knew once I get here? Or was it caused like out of pain because you're like, man, I can't wait till I could stop calling FSBOs and expireds and just kind of work with a nest egg and deliver high? Like, how'd you arrive at that place?
It very much came from the first. So it was a 5-year process where a lot of it was a leap of faith on the front end because you don't know. If you're not doing that, dial every morning and I've got my metrics, I make 100 calls, I'll make 21 contacts through that. From the 21 contacts, I'll have this many appointments, which yields this many listings, which, you go right down that. If you don't have, that's a predictable formula. Yeah. To go ahead and rely fully on referral and repeat business when you don't have prospecting systems in place, it is a massive leap of faith. So it took 5 years to go ahead. So we hustled, we did all the dialing, the prospecting, all those things. And it took about 6 months to create the pipeline of business. And once we had those first 40 transactions, servicing them the way that we service them today, we never prospected again. At the 12-month mark, we cut all of our ad spend in half. Or at the 6-month mark, we did. At the end of 12 months, we eliminated it all and replaced it with client loyalty programs. Which made it pretty easy. So then after that, I was like, well, let's see what we do next year without any of the prospecting. And it was 44 units. And then let's see. I mean, that can't be. And really, it was Jody who was telling me, like, you're killing yourself with this prospecting stuff. If you just put out good vibes and do a good job to the world, it's just going to come right back to you. I'm like, I don't know. I've trained people for a very long time, and we never told them to do that, ever, not once. And not once on stage then anybody say, well, I just do a really good job at my job, and that's how we get business. Because that's not a story, It's not a story that's easy to tell, because everybody defines what the actual service of their client is differently. So you got to define world-class service before you can say just do good service and it'll be okay. You have to define what that is, because everybody's bar is going to be a little bit different. But then it was year after year after year. So all the way to 2018 was the first time I took a breath, like, hey, I think we can maybe spend something that's in our, you just kind of squirrel all this away because you don't know if it's predictable. And then it just became predictable. And that's now we're kind of, we're limited by our own physical ability to serve clients. That's it, in the life that we want to live. So it took a while.
Yeah, and of course, and let's talk about how you define service a little bit. So I think part of it is defining the service, and then delivering on that service. And then I think where people are struggling is how to articulate that service best. So how do we get that message out? And you're saying you cut your marketing budget in half. You're not spending a lot of money on marketing. Instead, you're spending money on servicing. You're spending money on these perks programs and things like that. So let's talk about how, number one, you guys are defining service, because clearly, you have to be on the same page with your client with regards to that. And then what that is, how you're delivering and executing on it, and then how are you then getting the message out there to potential new clients and articulating what your service is to attract the right people. Because I always want to say this, and I'm so glad we met, because I used to travel around the country talking about some strategies and techniques about servicing, and you always get those people, nobody does that here. People might do that in New York City, but nobody takes their clients to the closing in a limo here. And I'm like, I know. Nobody does it in New York either, but I do, because my buddy owns a limo company, right? So, right. But and you're going to talk about some things now that people are out there going to listen and say, nobody does that. I'm not going to do that. Nobody does that here. It's not worth it. So consider that if you did, if you were curious about these things, you could step into it. You could charge more money, get more clients, not have to worry about competing in a bottom feeder world anymore. So tell us about that.
Right. I think first and foremost, you have to master the transaction itself. I think that the best way I can think of it is you meet a client, you understand their needs, you understand the property in the area, the comparables, what the pricing is going to be. And then at that point, you're calling your shot like Babe Ruth. So I sent an email out to a client yesterday on a listing that we're taking, and I said, all right, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to list your property. The photo shoot's going to be on March 24th. March 24th gives us a live date on the MLS of March 30th. The first time I show the property will be April 3rd. You'll be under contract within 72 hours of that moment, at which point you'll close right around May 10th. Now that I've said that, I have to deliver that. So it's mapping everything so that there's no real surprises. It's like, all right, with this client and this offer, these are the red flags that are going to show up when you have the inspection. Sure, it's an as-is contract, but this is going to happen. You're an appraisal risk. You have to know the entire process well. From there, you can start creating, client perk programs, loyalty things, different things like that. So we have everything from a happiness guarantee, which I've talked about with you before, where somebody buys a home with us, we'll sell it for free within 2 years of your anniversary date of the purchase. We also have things that people can use, pressure washers, 2020 Dodge Ram pickup truck, and it's an interactive process. Surveys go out, they review, our clients review the surveys, check what they want. We go ahead and get the thing. So we have amassed a massive amount of client loyalty items at this point. And it's like the third entity in my marriage. It's like, hey, I think we really need an outdoor movie theater. Not for me, for the client perks program. Our clients need it, so we go ahead and that allows me to get some things that I probably wouldn't get otherwise. Yeah. So it's a phenomenal tool for sure. And then, after that, you've just got to go ahead and, show people that you're working. So that's our Monday reports. Every Monday, reports go out to our clients. This is exactly what we did for marketing. This is the showing report, the prospect report. Here's proofs of what we did. Here's everything has a process, and we show that we actually do the things. So now we don't get those phone calls like, hey, I haven't heard from you in 5 days. What's going on? My phone never rings because our clients' expectations are wildly managed, and we communicate with them as efficiently as possible. So that's it. You knock it out of the park like that. You can't, and all those little, the happiness guarantee, client perks, those are great hooks. But ultimately, I think the thing our clients love most is just the quality of work through the transaction. So we've mapped the process, tell them exactly what it's going to be like. There's never a surprise. If we can't fix something, and we know that it's going to be rough ahead, we tell them, hey, it's going to be rough ahead. If I'm going to land the plane, it's just going to feel like we got shot down. So it's going to be, and it's worth it because this offers $27,000 more than our next closest one, or whatever the case may be. So I think that communication is critical. And then it's just getting rid of all the annoyances, like a $50 application fee. I mean, you're making 25 grand in commission. Why is your client got to write that check? They send you the app, then they got to mail you it. I mean, take care of all those little things. Treat a $200,000 listing like a luxury listing. Because I mean, honestly, our process is the same. I mean, the only thing that gets, more extravagant is sometimes the space is large enough where we can do interior video, or it requires 8 pictures in a brochure versus 3, but it's the same quality brochure and the same type of video that we would do on every listing. So it's a little bit about the bar, but everything's documented. An agent tomorrow could come and take everything that we do and just say, all right, terrific. This is the 33-week marketing plan. Most houses sell by day 21 or today by day 1. And they just start checking off boxes. This is what I do. This is what I do.
I did put the link down there in the comments. If you want to join Brett's real estate group, Real Estate After 40, I put the link in the comments, as well as I put the link for you guys to register. Oh, we got Kelly said, she said she has all this stuff. Yay. And then she put a smiley face. Yay, Kelly, thanks for joining. I did want to open this up for questions. So as we're kind of wrap up talking about perks programs and client service and everything like that, I put some resources there for you. Join the Real Estate After 40 group. The link is in the comments. And I just want to open it up for questions. We're going to start talking about what we're going to be presenting on Wednesday, which is finding off-market inventory. So feel free, post your questions. We're in real time right now. We'll get them answered. And yep, thanks, Kelly, for joining us in the middle of your crazy days. Wonderful. And so we have coming up on Wednesday, and here's another thing. People always come to Brent and myself, and they're like, hey, when are you going to teach us the new stuff, right? Everybody wants to hear the new stuff. When are you going to bring the new stuff, right? So we have a series called The New Stuff, and where we talk about, you guessed it, some new stuff. This, as well as old stuff, by the way. Without these foundational things, new stuff is not going to work. So what are we going to talk about? Finding off-market inventory. I mean, are any of you working in a market where it's getting increasingly more difficult to get your qualified buyers into properties, or even to build your inventory up to a place where it's comfortable? I mean, that's market's going. I work with people all around the country. It's going on everywhere. No one's exempt from it, but we're going to talk about some strategies to find, list, market, close off-market properties, all while creating 5-star service for your buyer clients. Brett, talk to us a little bit about what you're going to be going over.
Yeah, so in this one, we kind of get a few different segments here for finding off-market inventory. And like I said earlier on, the thing I love about it, is that we have case studies. So we kicked this class off with 3 case studies, because about 25% of our sales in 2021 were all off-market. If you see them on the MLS, it's only because they were statistically recorded, which is a new category that they have now, just to get the realtors to go ahead and input the data. Yeah. But about 25% was off-market. So we're going to go through, I think, 3 or 4 case studies I have in the class, which I'm really excited about. We'll tell you exactly where they came from. So the sources we use to secure these off-market properties, the way that we interacted with the seller so that we could go ahead and secure the contract for our buyer, what the big win was, because I mean, really, there's huge wins in finding off-market inventory for your buyer clients. Huge wins. I mean, it's like going back in time. I absolutely love it. So you can get things done there you can't get done on an active market when there's 150 people at an open house on a Sunday right now. So we're going to talk about those case studies, and then we also have the sources. So I think we have 12 or 13 sources that we use to go ahead and secure off-market inventory. Use them all. It requires you to be a phenomenal buyer consultant, so you know where to use the sources. It's like I got to pinpoint what you want, so I can go ahead and find everything for the clients. And then what to say. And Chris, this is where you're just been instrumental, is really honing these conversations to connect, build trust, and convert a seller, not necessarily to a listing, but just to get them to agree to sell to your buyer. I mean, that language, everything that you use there is huge.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because I mean, and we had a client she was actually looking for her own house. The house that she lived in was going up for sale, and she's luckily having a great year. I mean, this year she this month, these past 2 months, she outperformed herself last year, right? Shannon, she wouldn't mind saying
Yep.
that because she's doing so
Absolutely.
well. And we're just talking about, hey, like, she's like, oh, what do I do? And I'm like, you call for sale by owners. And now you're actually calling for a buyer that's yourself. So, and she's actually ended up finding a house, and she's got, we just talked earlier, and she's got all these leads to follow up with now, with people that she had great conversations with. I mean, another success story, Brian Dale he's up in Westchester, and he's got Agent 2.0. Check him out. It's a lot of fun. He's in contract moving a little bit further upstate. So he's building a nest egg, an inventory up there, and he's doing geo calls where he's just calling into the neighborhood. And he's like, he realized that for every 200 people he talks to, he gets 3 people that say they're going to sell in the near future, and he gets another 30 people that are nice, right? So he's got his nurtures like that are going to sell in the near future. Then he's got just nice people that he's going to continue to follow up with and have these conversations. So what we're talking about is, if you have a buyer client, instead of it's the question behind the question. Instead of saying, when is the market going to change? Why is it so hard to find my buyer houses? Ask yourself the question, what can I do to get my qualified buyers into properties, right? It's like, how can I be better at what I'm doing? And one of those ways is, you present your buyer, you say, hey, look, here's a service I can provide from you on the condition that you hire me and engage me as your buyer agent, as your buyer representative. And then you go out there and you hunt for your buyer, just like you go out there and hunt for listings, but now you're hunting on purpose for a specific buyer. And you might sell an off-market property. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to build relationships with people that own property out there that could lead to a quick sale to that buyer, could lead to a listing for another buyer, or it's just a pipeline transaction for you in the future, a future raving fan, as we say. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, about what to do, how to look at the data, how to communicate, how to call people, how to communicate with them, how to communicate to the buyer your value, how to go out there and prospect and hunt, right? A hunter mentality.
Right. And you got to be able to cut through it too, because you're not the only one doing this, but most people aren't doing it effectively. So you need to cut through the noise of 85 other postcards that ended up in their inbox today that say, I have a buyer for your property. Like, how do you stand out in all that? It's a different environment entirely. And one thing that I think is really interesting right now, like you said, every market has its moment, Chris, right? So this is, just kind of, you can complain about it or you can see the opportunity. And I think you've got this lawsuit, or this conflict between the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors. There's never been a better time to go ahead and look at buyer representation in a different light. I think our industry has always coveted listings. Like, you've got to have listings, you've got to have listings. But let me just go ahead and kind of reframe everything for a second. And
requiring to put a cooperating broker compensation, which means that sub-agency will be no more, right? It's only going to be client. It's going to be
100%.
client.
100%. So if I went and I took a poll of like 100 buyers that are out there, and I said, would you like to go ahead and look at the properties that are on the market, or would you like to look at the properties that are on the market and off the market? What are they going to go ahead and choose? I mean, they're going to choose on the market and off the market. And I think there's such a great opportunity to make the buyer's agent in this market that we have right now, to make the buyer's agent the king. I think there's never been a time where it's been like it is right now. And I think that's the greatest opportunity we have, where you can show value. You can have every gimmick in the world, but if you find one buyer in off-market property, you will have a raving fan for life, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, and how many transactions are you doing a year like that?
Where we represent the buyer in an off-market transaction, we're probably in the zone of, I think it was 7, 8, 9, right in that zone last year. So it's a fair amount of buyer representation right there off-market. So it was phenomenal. But it's not that fast-moving, $300,000 to $400,000 client that we're typically doing these with. It's going to be the larger transactions, because there you actually have a string of expired listings from 3 years ago or 4 years ago that you can pursue. And there's a lot. It's a little bit more of a slow moving market that you can capitalize on.
And then that becomes part of your service, right? Like, can you imagine putting your buyer into a property when everyone else is getting outbid? I mean, how many buyers are out there making offers, getting outbid, not getting into something? Then all of a sudden you have an agent that says, hey, how would you like to be the only buyer on a particular property? Wait, what are you talking about? Well, that's exactly why we have to talk about buyer agency, right? Has anybody spoken to you about this? Because nobody's talking about it, and I'll tell you why nobody's talking about it. Because everybody out there has this mentality of, oh, buyers are liars. Buyers don't want to list. Buyers don't want to be tied down to one agent. Yeah, how many buyers have you talked to in the past week that have been looking for a while and can't find anything? Oh, I want to work with the listing agent mentality. Okay, you want to work with the listing agent? So does everybody else. How about you work with a buyer agent that's working with the listing that has no other agents looking at it?
Right.
How about that? And then that becomes part of your service, right?
Well, and it's 100% true. And I think it was Kelly that I sent a screenshot of a text that I had where one of our clients who we closed on a deal that we knew was coming. It was off market. We closed it just January 14th. And she legitimately asked me, she's like, hey, could you be our agent? Is there an agreement that we can sign? I'm like, what? Yeah, you skipped 2 steps there, but absolutely. Let's go ahead and get that done. Now I'm fully working for you. And I just love, and it's so important to understand that these aren't just listing opportunities for me that I'm going after. I'm identifying properties that are going to come on market with another agent 2 weeks before they come onto the market. So I am fully aware of everything that's going to happen in a neighborhood over the next 21 days. So they come to me and say, all right, terrific. Can you connect us with those opportunities in advance? Yes, I can give you a 5-day head start on this one. I can give you a 7-day head start on this one. This one, I know they're going to go till, that wild open house. There's nothing that we can do to go ahead and get them to accept an offer prior. So then we start talking about strategies to go ahead and find more like that. So yeah, it's I don't know. I always was that guy that was like, listings are king and I'm a listing agent and I'm still listing heavy. I mean, I'm 70% of my transactions are listing side transactions. So, but now I'm so intrigued and fascinated by the opportunity here to really make listing agents irrelevant. I really can't. Like if I can find all the houses before agents list them with my buyers, then we don't need listing agents, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, done deal.
Exactly. Look, and look, so what would your business look like if you didn't have an MLS to choose for? If you didn't have some kind of online database of people that said, hey, hi, I'm selling, what would you then do? What if the only opportunity was you to be engaged and hired by somebody that said, go find me a property, and there was no listings, right? We're not far from that market now.
I mean, you become an inventory specialist. This is 100% it. And I think that's one of the first slides that we have in that presentation is imagine a world without an MLS. You're spoiled. I mean, if you're an agent that goes ahead and takes an inquiry from a buyer that says, hey, I saw 123 Any Street. Can you take me to the property? You're not going to be compensated in the future escorting a buyer to a showing that they've requested from you. There is no model that's going to compensate an agent for that 5 years from now. You just escort them to the open house, escort them to the showing. You have a Supra, so you open the door and escort them through the contract. You've got to create a better value proposition as a buyer's agent than that right now. And I tell everybody, it's like, what if the buyer had to pay you up for your services? Would they still hire you? Go back, think of your last 100 buyers that you worked with. How many of them be like, oh yeah, if I had to pay that fee, I would love to still have done. I would have totally still done it. Half are going to lie to you and say they would, when really we know that probably 90% wouldn't if they were, they had that question to answer before you started working with them.
Yeah, it's so true. On this, we have this 3-hour workshop. I call it a workshop over a webinar or a class and stuff because we want people to do stuff. So it's we're doing it this Wednesday. We got Thanks Brett is a promo code that we created for the first 20 to use it, get to attend for free. Otherwise, it's got a $50 price tag on it, which is still a deal. To hang out with the two of us for 3 hours, as well as all the group there. It is on Zoom, so it's going to be easily accessible. And we will be we'll be getting on the road doing some other live events more in the future. But do we have any questions from anybody out there? If you guys have questions, feel free to post them. Otherwise, you could go check in the link. It's going to be this Wednesday, 1 to 4 Eastern time. We put the registration link right there in the comments. It's dreamgeekconsulting.com/the new stuff and promo code. Thanks, Brett. Which is a tag we've been running. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna post a video too of your perks program promo.
I love it. Thanks, Brett, in action right there.
But, yeah, feel free, guys. Ask questions. We are live now. Brett, is there anything else that you want everybody to know out there? Any parting words or?
No, I mean, I really think that I mean, people. So I taught this class live about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, to a small group of agents, and I think that they really understood it. So my goal is that everybody walks away with something that is practical and actionable. So those that attend this, I mean, they're going to get the stuff right there. It's like, all right, yeah, we can go ahead and implement this immediately, and then I mean, it's one of those things where I've been to 1,000 classes. Then you have all these things that you write down in your notebook and you never get to them. I love doing the combo classes with you because then they can go ahead and circle right back with an implementation plan and say, all right, how do I make sure that I get this done over the next 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks to help my clients? How many clients can I help? I mean, most people have a log of 5 buyers right now, and they're not changing their strategy to go ahead and put them under contract. So there's money just sitting right there if you became more skilled and connected them with a property.
Yeah. What could you do? What could you do? Right. So we're going to go through the how and the what and the when. So here's how you do it. Now, what are you going to do and when are you going to do it by? Right. So it's, we don't want to, don't get me wrong, it will be entertaining, but that's not the only reason why we want you to show up. We want you to come. We want you to participate. We want you to ask questions. We want you to hear from the trenches strategies about how to find, list, sell off-market properties, how to articulate that value proposition to your buyer and get more buyers to hire you as their agent, as their hunter. And of course, it's going to open up more listing opportunities for you. And the worst thing that's going to happen is that you're going to have conversations with new people, which that's the old stuff. It never, right? So when are you going to teach us the new stuff? After you start talking to 100 people a week, right? So here's a new group of people that you could talk to. We're going to show you how to find those people. We're going to show you how to follow up with them, how to set yourself apart from, cut through the noise of everything else that's popping up in their inbox, in their mailbox, right? And the calls that they're getting. I mean, so I get all the time, so many agents are calling expired. Really? I used to run into the same agents all the time, used to be walking into a FISBO and another agent's walking out. Hey, Chris. Hey, Brett. What's up? Just have a good one. But that's what it is. So we're going to learn these things. Does anybody have any questions? We've talked about perks programs. That's huge, by the way. We love the perks all the time. We talked about adding value, adding so much value that there's so much value that people are screaming your name from the rooftops. That's what it comes down to, right?
It's 100% true. I mean, and again, all those things are secondary to doing your job well first. So, I mean, if you have it's just a difference that can be felt in the way you service, you'll have a raving fan just from that. It's just your job to go ahead and have those perks programs to go ahead and hook them in, so you have that opportunity to show them that you're different, or stay in touch with them over time, which is what the perks program does, so that they don't forget how great you were when you worked with them.
That's awesome. I did want to ask you about the mechanics of the staying in touch, because you got the perks program, you got the way that you stay in touch. Are you using like a fancy CRM or touch system to keep in touch with everybody?
MailChimp, 350 contacts 4 times a year. That's it. Maybe 6 times. So we have the survey that goes out. It says, hey, we're shopping again. What would you like? And then we go ahead and let them know. We got a little creative around the holidays and kind of did like the 12 days of Christmas and kind of said, hey, you get this, and hey, you get this, and hey, here's this thing now. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we'll do a market update during the pandemic. So there's just one-offs, but it's 100% custom. It's what we feel like they would want to hear. Sure. Not necessarily some automated, I just want to stay top of mind kind of thing. It's like, this is it. So
I love that. So you're using MailChimp, you're sending it out 4 times a year, maybe 6. And you actually told me one time, you're like, I'm scared. I'm due to send another one out, but I'm scared because every time we send it out, we get business. And I don't know if we could take on any more business.
Yeah, it's 100% true. So we'll go ahead and delay something based on where a vacation falls or whatever the case may be. We took a significant amount of consecutive days off in 2019. And honestly, what I did was I sent out 3. So I did 3 right in a row before we left, so that it would all be sitting there for me when I got back. So we went ahead and sent out those touches and then kind of circled back after the vacation, and the pipeline was still there. So it worked out really well.
So it's like, in talking about, I'm worried about I'm going to get more business. So somebody that delivers business at a level that you've chosen to, right? Which we could call that, 5-star Ritz-Carlton red carpet kind of service. What does your leverage look like?
I have 0 leverage. You painted me into a corner on that one. I am not the person that will talk about leverage. So my beautiful bride, she'll go ahead and back me up whenever we get really busy. She's got active clients that she'll work with and nurture. When it comes down to the transactional side, she typically goes ahead and transfers them over to me. She's a phenomenal, connector in the social world. She does great there.
Yeah.
But from a leverage standpoint, we do all our own stunts, everything. I mean, I will remove the lamp cords with my own photo editing software from every picture, from every single one of our listings myself. Write all of our own descriptions, which takes 8 hours per description, so you can just go on and on and on. No leverage. But here's the thing. It's like leverage I could only ever take as, one piece at a time, where they help with a piece. I could never have a salaried anybody, because what do I do when I do want to take 2 months off or 3 months off or whatever the case may be? There's not too many people that are like, all right, well, you can just not pay me. I'm going to go. There's nothing to do. We literally shut everything down to zero when those moments happen.
So you have to be super clear on who your client is, who your client isn't. And then you have to know, I always say it's so important to know how many listings can I service at a time? How many buyers can I service at a time? If you don't know those numbers, you're going to be at the risk of being reactive and then ending up with more than you can handle. So are you pretty clear about, do you know when to shut the faucet off, kind of when everything is,
Yeah, I can't. So pendings, we won't go more than 14 pendings at any given time. That's the ceiling. It just nothing's happening beyond that. And the goal isn't necessarily how many are pending. It's how many are in those still contingent periods where you have to deal with things. So I will go ahead and do, some of the skills and things that I've worked on more so than anything else is ending inspection periods early, expediting appraisals, just front loading everything on every transaction. So I get to that point where now we're just casually walking to the finish line. So it's, hectic for a moment and then smooth afterwards. So it's how many people are in that hectic window really dictates what I can handle. But as far as listings go, I can make 5 live in a week. I can service 10 active listings at a time. But buyers are much more intensive. So buyers labor intensive. We'll never have more than 6 non-under contract buyers ever in our pipeline.
Man, look, you didn't I asked so many times. I asked people about their numbers, and you didn't hesitate. You were just like, "Yep."
People ask me that all the time, so it's like, "Yeah, this is the number," and those are the maximums. Usually, we operate. Again, our goal is only to close 40 to 50 units a year. So, the part that gets tricky is just how many come to fruition at once. So we hit those peak numbers in that moment, and then everything gets back down after that. And now we're doing a 2, 3, 4 pending at a time type situation. Like right now, I probably have 6 pending that go all the way out to September 1st, and then we'll have 3 active listings this weekend that we're going to all board at once. So it's it's pretty easy to manage right now.
Nice, awesome, I love it. Well, we never see you sweat. And it's a pleasure to work with you. And we got this coming up on Wednesday, March 9th from 1 to 4. And we got some free tickets for you if you use the promo code Thanks Brett. So feel free to reach out to Brett. You see the links in the comments. We also put the link to your Real Estate After 40 group, which you got you're doing Q&As in there. You're posting a lot of the stuff that we talked about, items of value in there. So we got no, I don't know. Somebody's promoting something here. Okay, well, it's always a good time.
Hopefully it's real estate related.
I don't know what it is. Who knows? What are you gonna do? But that's the deal. Well, we have this thing coming up. Feel free to reach out to us. We're accessible, and if there's no questions, we will see you out in the virtual world. Until next time. So peace out, everybody.
Take care. Great to see you, Chris.